Welcome to the first installment of In the Car with Starr, the interview edition. As you can clearly tell by my lovely background here, I am not in the car. You know, Ash Gregoire Champagne doesn't make cars that look like one's kitchen. They might, though. I don't think it's a strong selling point, but nevertheless, this is due to COVID, right? The idea I had when I started the In the Car with Starr podcast project was basically ripping off Jerry Seinfeld, in that I was going to do like sports guys in cars talking sports, right? Fun little maybe 10 or 15-minute interview, some zany questions, not so traditional in the questions and answering sense. But because of COVID-19 and the Omicron virus raging throughout La Belle Province, I thought it's better to keep our distance. I'm home. My first ever guest on In the Car with Starr, he is an old friend of mine, and it's a passion project, and it has been forever and a day. I first met Dave Hill when he was part of the golfologist program over at Nuns Island. And then from there, I believe I got a lesson once from Dave at the Montreal Athletics Association. And then I got lessons again from Dave at the Golf Dome in Kirkland. Dave Hill is one of the most renowned coaches in Montreal, in Quebec, universally respected, a master at his craft, someone that has helped bring my game to the next level. So I thought, what better guest than Dave Hill, a man who has helped me grow my own game, who's been a personal friend to me in a sport that I think I'm extremely passionate about. So Dave, welcome. Thank you for being always there for me and my golf game, and for so many other people that I've talked to over the years, man. You've helped so many people. When did you think that teaching was going to be your path in golf?
Well, firstly, thanks for inviting me, Shaun, for your inaugural edition of the Starr in the Car. Maybe we can get to this one we call Dave in the Cave. I don't know what to call it, but it's a really cool initiative, so appreciate it. And thanks for being inviting me as your first guest. You know what? I mean, listen, I started playing golf at a young age and grew up, and I always knew I was going to go into golf. And I went down to Florida, like right around the time of around 20 years old. I think I tried to make it out on tour, and you realize you're not quite good enough. So I went through the apprentice program in the Canadian PGA. At the time, it was a 5-year program. You did lab reports. You worked under a Class A at a golf club. But I realized, I think it was my second year in, I said, I can't sell socks to little old ladies and argue over a lost head cover or clubs that aren't clean for the rest of my career. So I really got into teaching and coaching, and I knew I was always going to do that. And I always remember somebody saying to me, they go, you should do something else. And this golf thing, and I go, listen, as long as there's people playing golf, they're going to need help playing it. So I just went bang on. I went ahead with it. But I think we're going back to 1990, 91.
Did you think for a time, though, like, especially when you were younger and you're, maybe ahead of some of your peers when you were playing, where you grew up, like Hemingford area, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Hemingford. That's where I grew up. Yeah. But at the time, it was 18 holes when I first started playing.
Like at what point in like your junior career, you're starting to play the game, you're playing 36 holes, you're playing 45 holes, you're out there all day, every day, shaping shots, learning the game like kids do, fearless, right? Fearless in what they want to do in their practice habits. Did you think for how long did you, maybe I could do this, maybe I can make a living as a player, before you kind of evolved into a teacher?
Well, I think every kid dreams that, eh? Like, that's why we spent, I would be at the golf course from sun up to sundown with that idea. And, back then we didn't have a lot of coaching, certainly no programs like today. I think perhaps if I had been exposed to something like we have today, but who knows, right? The kids, like in our day, we didn't have anything else to do, right? We're outside, your mom's kicking you out of the house, go play sports, go play with your friends, go do something. So we occupied our time. And I think we'd had that type of coaching growing up. I might have made it to a relatively decent level. I'm not sure where, definitely mini tours, maybe even as far as Corn Ferry. I think I had the skill. Technically, I wasn't very solid. I hit the ball all over the map. Probably had the best short game I knew, because I felt, well, if I'm going to hit it this crooked and I don't hit it far as a little kid, I have to have a good short game. I think by the time once I got to Florida, I realized, okay, no, I'm not gonna be able to do this. But I would say right up until the age of 18, 19, I really felt, well, why not? Let's go for it. The first tournament I ever played in as a pro was just local here in Quebec on the PGA circuit, the assistant circuit. I won it. I was brimming with confidence after spending my first year in Florida. But, 68s and 71s and stuff, that doesn't cut it. You got to be able to go low.
And it's weird too, right? Like, and we'll talk about where you are now and what you're doing with John Rennie in the Sporty Took program. teaching the next generation of promising golfers. And we'll also talk about the evolution of golf in Quebec and in Canada, because it's blossoming, it's blooming, right? I mean, speaking, I'm wearing my Kanawaki polo today, proud member of the Kanawaki Golf Club. One of our members, Chris Van Det's a Division I scholarship player at Kent. He won a massive tournament last season, and he's part of Team Canada's development program. So, he went where Mac Hughes went, where Adam Hadwin went to, Corey Connors went to school at Kent State University. We're seeing a lot of progress. But as I mentioned off the top, right, talking with Dave Hill, Canadian PGA Tour professional, one of the best teachers in the province, has helped me for 20 years. And as I mentioned, you started, with your partners at the Golfologists Academy in Nuns Island, teaching out of the MAA. I remember you were the first guy that I knew that was teaching with video. This was well before the iPad, and I'll never forget this. You filmed my swing. You showed me my swing. You're like, man, you got a little bit of KJ Choi in your swing tendencies. I don't know if my super producer, Dave, could put a picture of KJ Choi in here so people could get a visual of what I'm talking about. But, I mean, were you always, with tech, were you always one of those that, I'm not so old school. There's technology that can help us. Were you early on, adapting to that?
Yeah, for sure. At the beginning, absolutely, with video. And I wasn't the first. There was guys definitely before me. But in Quebec, I think there were some guys up in Quebec City that were even well ahead of me. And in Montreal, there's been a few before me. I really felt you had to at least show people their swing. What was ironic back then? We'd use the V1 software. You have to buy the computer. You have to buy the camera. By the time you got all set up, you're running $4,000 or $5,000. And today, it's just a smartphone and you're good to go. Free apps. It doesn't cost anything. So it's interesting. It was the ROI on it. You really had to teach a lot to make it worthwhile, but that's how you developed your reputation. We actually had these virtual glasses back in the day where you could see yourself swing and superimpose lines. So people could actually swing a golf club indoors in a studio and kind of see where they were off and then try to follow the line. So technology's come a long way. I think more so now everybody's just looking at ball flight and obviously with TrackMans and things, but the TrackMan, as an example, a lot of guys on tours, Shaun, they've kind of shied away from it, except for really getting the proper equipment and dialing in their wedges. There's a little bit of overkill also with TrackMan, so we have to be careful, because I think we're starting to see a lot of coaches go back a little bit to old school with regarding to getting the ball in the hole. And I think Colin Morikawa is one of the guys that you see, the young guys, who's excellent at that.
No doubt. But here's the thing: I've done both methods, old school. I've read the Little Red Book, Harvey Phoenix book. You've been hands-on as my teacher for a long time. But, in the last couple of years, I've looked at TrackMan, I looked at GC Quad. I love numbers. I love the metrics. So explain to me then, why is it that someone like myself, a diehard player who plays all the time, I've managed to drop my handicap single digit now. I love the instant feedback. If you're saying, Shaun, you're too steep, you got to shallow at the club path. If I'm hitting on a TrackMan or a GC Quad, Dave, I could see the immediate response to okay, well, here's the launch angle, or here's where your club face met the ball, and you're looking for a certain number, and that number gives me instant feedback.
Right. Well, it's interesting. I think if you look at the old players, Shaun, yesteryear, all the greats, they kind of were able to do it intuitively based on, it was their talent, right? And I think today, even as instructors, we're able to now tap into what those great players were doing intuitively, and then we can give that feedback quickly to our students, who obviously we're not equipped. Almost none of us are equipped with that type of talent. So when you show, this is the issue, then we can figure out ways to improve that almost immediately, sometimes through drills or different ways of moving. And we know a lot more about the golf swing now. So I think the technology gives us the ability to assess something more quickly that we can't always see with our naked eye, or we didn't even understand before. Now we understand it better, and the students are reaping the rewards, and they're reaping them quickly, I would say. And as instructors, we've learned a lot more about the movement and how to make it happen more quickly.
Well, listening to that, it makes sense in my mind the way you express it, right? Because I'm thinking about, I consider myself a bit of a feel player. If I'm playing simulation golf in the wintertime, I have a hard time looking at the numbers and saying, okay, I'll take the club back this far. That equals 130 yards, right?
Right.
As opposed to when I'm out there in the middle of the fairway, the rare times that I'm in that position, I'll judge with my eyes, like, oh, the distance or the wind. I can feel the wind, or maybe it's misty, or maybe it's early morning and the ball doesn't go as far as it does in the middle of the afternoon, right? Like,
Right.
I'm very much a field player. Am I on the right path? Is that good, bad? Versus the analytical golfer that says, well, if I take my putter head back to my middle toe, that's a 10-foot putt. Or if I take my 9-iron just past my hip, that's a 135-yard knockdown,
It's definitely it's kind of an interesting question because I have to think about that because for me as a golfer, I've always been a field player. It's how I grew up. And I know with technology, people look at it and say they get their TrackMan and they say, okay, my wedge play at 75 yards, I take it back this far, it comes through this quick. But you're right. When you get out on the golf course, different temperature, different times of the day, different conditions in terms of the turf. So for sure, you have to tap into the visual and the feel. Like with a lot of the kids I coach, I don't let them pull out this all the time. I see kids in tournaments, they're pulling this out from 30 yards.
That's wild.
Okay, got 30 yards to the flag. You need to be walking the distance, walk the golf course, feel the golf course, feel those shots. I don't know if you heard what Patrick Harrington said during the PNC, that interview while Tiger was on the range with Lee Trevino for about 20 minutes. Patrick was talking the whole time. And he says, I'm equipped with everything. And he says, I work with numbers and I try. And he says, the problem with technology sometimes, he says, all you're trying to do is constantly improve your numbers. And I neglected my strengths, actually, trying to improve my weaknesses. I became a worse scorer. I didn't score as well. So you really have to find the happy medium with both, right? I mean, technology and feel. You got to be able to take what the numbers are showing you. Can you translate that into shots on the golf course? And your 75-yard shot in a controlled situation doesn't mean it's the same outside on the golf course.
Talking with Dave Hill, CPGA Tour teacher, has been with me for 20 years. We'll talk about where he's at now with John Rennie in a second, the state of Canadian golf, and maybe even more specifically, Quebec golf. And that's the thing too, right? When I think about tech and I think about like my own game or how it relates to the average person out there, it reminds me of the discussions we often have with hockey about analytics in sports. You'll have the pro people with analytics. You'll have those that no, you got to watch the game. Analytics doesn't measure heart. I think the same thing about golf. I think there's good. I think there's bad. And why can't it just be access to more information? Something that you could use to benefit your game. A little bit from column A, a little bit from column B. Like, it doesn't have to be Dustin Johnson, who I was watching the other day, talk about, well, I need to see launch angle of 11 and spin rate of 22. That's 2,200. That's like my comfort zone. I'm like, dude, you're Dustin Johnson. Like, you're the 1% of the 1%. Like, sometimes that aspect of golf drives me crazy because we're all the same in that context, Dave. If we're passionate, diehard players, we run. We don't walk to when Tiger or DJ or Rory has new shoes, new equipment, new techniques. We just take it and run with it when sometimes it doesn't help us that much.
No, I mean, at the end of the day, what's the game about? It's about bottom line. It's about scoring, right? So I think if we can self-assess our games a little bit better. So if you say, I'm going to take 10 games or 15 rounds of golf, and I'm going to cover maybe 5 or 6 key stats. Like, one I always love to cover with my kids is the ball playable after a tee shot. It doesn't have to be in the fairway. It just has to be between the trees. And if it's playable, you have typically 14 drives on a golf course, right? So were there any, if that's not very good in terms of you're out of play half the time, well, we got to work on that. There's something going on with your golf swing that doesn't allow you to be accurate. So you got to look at stats a little bit more objectively and that's what the guys on tour do, right? They don't try to nitpick that much. They just say, okay, I'm a little too far off in this particular area. I'm not going to neglect my strengths, but I have to improve my weaknesses a little bit. And I think when we talk about guys on tour coming up, I think we're gonna delve into that a little bit. We'll see. Yeah, some guys, their strengths are what always keep them there, and if they can improve their weaknesses just a little bit, they'll become better players. So you got to be careful with how deep you go into that rabbit hole of technology and statistics. Right. You got to keep it really basic.
PGA Tour breakdown, the new season coming up in a second. I've got some predictions, and we've got major picks to hand out. We're prepared to do that. I just want to continue on this with Shaun. Dave Hill. What?
Maybe a couple of surprises.
I hope so. I sent you my list early, so I don't know what was your initial reaction when you saw my list of major winners this year? Don't say anything. Just what was your reaction when you saw it?
I
Predictable?
thought it was pretty much on par. I feel like you're on par, but I'm a little different than you actually.
Okay, good. I like that. I want to continue on the golf tech angle for a second before we get into the state of Canadian and Quebec golf. I consume a lot of golf content on social media, especially YouTube videos. Everybody has a channel. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, everybody. Like and subscribe as always. And I watch a lot, like whether it's Ben Dixon Golf, or Mike Bender Golf, I should say, excuse me. Rick Shields is another one. The TXG guys out of Toronto, another group of fellas that are great at breaking down club releases and data and stuff like that. But there are moments, Dave, where I think I consume too much because I'll watch like 3 or 4 different videos on 3 or 4 different techniques, and I find myself in more of a state of confusion than in a state of clarity, right? So like, how do you filter through like who's legit? Like Dave, if you were more active on social media with more videos and really saying, you know what, I'm really going to do this. I'm really going to put out swing tips every single day, all the time, and become that guy, right? Like, how do you filter out the bad versus the good that can actually help you improve?
Well, ironically, you brought that up because I've been approached to do that, and I'm taking down like notes on in terms of like how to do it, like to prioritize common denominators that you see with all good players. And really, I think the best way to filter through it, if you're capable, is I always look at it kind of like red light, green light, yellow light, right? Like traffic lights. You just have to be within the parameters of doing something well. Like if you're way off, like if we take the golf swing as an example. So in the golf swing, you have two aspects, right? You have the starting position and you have the motion itself. And the motion can be broken up into not too many parts if you keep it really simple. So I'm not going to get into every aspect of that. But as an example, like if we were to perform our backswing and we see someone's back hip, their trail hips sway way outside away from the target, well, we know that's like a red light. So I think this is what's missing online. It's little quick tips or focus on this body component. Whereas I think if the golf swing was explained, this is how a golf swing actually works, like from a global concept, which is what I've done with you in lessons, right? We say, well, this is actually how a golf swing kind of works. And if you're within those boundaries or parameters, you'll become a better player. And then you kind of, I don't teach feel per se, because you want to let somebody feel it their way. I may feel it one way, you may feel it the other way, but we've actually done the same move. So it is, people have to be very, very careful. And, if their goal is to improve, if they're just doing it for entertainment, that's one thing. But if they're really trying to improve, they have to be able to filter through it. I would actually suggest, like, if they find a good coach, find a good teacher, and share a video with them and say, Dave, what do you think of this? And is this something that applies to me? Because that's the other thing, right? I had a friend I grew up with down in Hemingford. He's a bit older than me. And when I finally really met him, I made the men's interclub team at 15. I think he was 18. When he was 14, he was a scratch player. At 18, he was a 6. And I said, hey, what happened? He goes, I started reading. Well, back then it was not online, right? It was all Golf Digest magazines. Yeah. He started performing movements he was probably already doing involuntarily. And next thing you know, you start exaggerating things the wrong way and you get out of whack. And that's the problem with golf.
Well, Guy Lafleur always said, when you start thinking out there on the ice, you're dead.
Yeah.
And, if I don't have a lot of regrets in my life, I'm human. I have some like you do and everybody else does. The one regret is not starting golf a lot earlier in my life because, I watch some guys that I play golf with and I can see that they started to swing the club as little boys because, the driver is the longest club in your bag. It's a heavy club. It's hard to hit. You got to hit up on the ball. It's the only club you hit up on the ball with. Everything else is down in an attack angle. This is up on an attack angle. And when you're a little kid, and Dave, you could speak to this running the Sportitude with John Rennie in the golf program, that you need to use your body to manipulate the club head to square at an impact so you can get the ball up in the air. And you learn that as a little kid because you're not strong enough. Where I start golf when I'm in my 20s, so I'm able to be strong enough to manipulate the club and groove these over the top. Shoulder comes over like that, these steep angles of attack, and then you groove it, right? So That's where the difference rests for me, and I could totally relate to that. Where if you're young and a natural and you love the game, like Charlie Woods, there's nothing analytical about that kid's swing.
No.
That's pure golf. That's his dad saying, "Here's the grip, here's the backswing, and go get the ball."
Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, as little kids, look at Brooke Henderson. I mean, you can see how she kind of moves up through the ball. She creates a lot of power.
She chokes right down too, eh?
Yeah, it chokes right up. I mean, down on the club. I mean, she obviously started with, I guess, men's clubs, and she just likes that feel. So she has a 40-inch driver, and she chokes down. But yeah, that's one of the moves for sure. You learn that as a child, again, intuitively. It's not something you have to really think of, and you develop. The one caveat I will say though is that I've played with you, Shaun, and you've vastly improved. You understand the technique. Is that if you've been exposed to at least other sports as a kid, especially that window of 6 to 10, where you just kind of mess around doing a bunch of stuff, hitting baseballs and tennis balls and softball and dribbling and doing whatever. It doesn't have to be formal hockey. You can develop a good golf game even if you start later on. Of course, if you're not really exposed to hand-eye coordination sports at a young age, you will find golf to be much more challenging as you get older. And you can see, I mean, although it's challenging and it's more challenging up here, you've kind of you put yourself in good stead. You've worked hard, and it's based on your athleticism and playing sports growing up that's helped you in the game. And you shot some really good scores this year.
How is like you touched on something that is. I'll be open and transparent here. It's the weakest part of my game by a mile. The space between my ears, and I was lucky enough. I got to play with Chris Van Ded, who's like a +6 or whatever he is, Kent State scholarship player, has won tournaments. What I admire about him the most, he set the course record at Summerley when he won his second provincial amateur this past summer. What I admire about him the most, he's not afraid to go low.
Yeah.
I think he took a 10 on the water par 5. He hit it into the rocks there, smashed his club into the rocks, trying to hit the ball out of the rocks, ended up taking a massive score, right? Still won the tournament by a mile, but followed it up, right, with birdies, and I've played with him a few times, and I've seen him hit some squirrely shots that still go 800 miles, but they're squirrely. Nothing. No, okay. I've got to get myself out of this jam. And I think that's the difference from those that can make it and maybe make some money at being a player, for those that don't, that confidence to say, you know what, I can shoot 62 today. Even if I shot 69 or 71 yesterday, I'm going to attack. Do you see that mentality with the kids you work with at John Rennie and Sporty too?
Well, some you have it more naturally than others for sure. And some of them
can it be taught, Dave? Can it be taught?
Yeah, I think it can be taught. I think the way it's taught though is firstly, the skill level has to be there. There's no doubt about that. There has to be some talent. There has to be the passion, because with passion, the practice is there. The work ethic is there. The way it's taught, though, really is exposing kids into competitive environments where they're fun. So like putting competitions, chipping competitions, going out, doing little statistical competitions in 9 holes, and having them step up all the time, step up. So they learn to get out of their comfort zone. And if you can do it at a younger age, it's better. And then through tournament play, they're going to have way more failures. And what are they learning from their failures? And that's how you do it. And they have to, it's always good. I think with kids today, it's a little more challenging because they're exposed to so much information. It's the information age. They're on their phones. They're on this. They're constantly getting information thrown at them. So I think with golf and within a coaching environment, you can kind of slow them down and then really get them with their peers and get them competing in little fun things. And next thing you know, by the time they're 14, 15, 16, they've started to develop that competitive edge and that fire and that ability to handle the emotions that come with it in any type of environment. And if it's not their day, it's not their day. And they have to learn that. And some, for sure. Listen, phenoms are phenoms. They have it a little bit more naturally, but you can definitely develop it. We're seeing that, right? I mean, as we're going to talk about, there's a lot of players that won on the tour this past year. We never saw that in the past.
No, we didn't. And we'll talk about that in a second.
More and more learning.
Our PGA Tour prediction and preview, and some major winners that we think are going to turn into a reality. And before we get into that, let's wrap up this part here with what's going on with the state of Canadian golf. I'll put you to the test here. Who's the closest Canadian to becoming the second to win a men's major?
I think it's Corey. I think Corey's knocking on the door. He was knocking at the door. Corey Connors at the Masters, at the US, I think at the US Open as well. He's right there. He's right there. If you look at his stats, there's no doubt he does. He's a little bit weak around the greens. He's not necessarily weak with his putting. He off the tee and his accuracy, or he's off the chart, right? He's like
great iron player.
Yeah, great iron player, a driving accuracy. He's about average distance. He's like just over 300 yards, I think like 80 or 83rd or something. In the Colin Morikawa type range. So definitely what's missing is around the greens. And if he can manage to do that, and also like he's put himself in position. I always like what Johnny Miller said. I don't know what you think about this term, Shaun, choke. Johnny Miller, and as controversial as he was at times, and not everybody's a fan of Johnny, but he never looked at choke as a negative word. For him, it was a positive word, because by choking, you put yourself in position to win. And he says, and if you never chokes, because you never put yourself in that position. So he says it is a positive. And obviously we saw that Corey's put himself in position a few times. He didn't pull through in the final round. But it's by doing so that he's going to give himself more chances, I think, moving forward, especially if he works, he gets a little bit better out of the bunkers, a little bit better chipping and pitching, not putting, chipping and pitching at greens.
Well, listen, I think a lot of people can relate to that. Like, you don't have to be a professional in any sport to be able to relate to that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, so if we're talking about golf, like, I can recall with extreme accuracy the first time I was on the cusp of breaking 80, right? And I remember standing on 17. I was like, oh my God, I have to hit the green. Gotta hit the green, right? So there's that internal pressure you put on yourself. And the way you get used to that, and I agree with what you're saying, in looking at Johnny Miller, using the word choke as a positive in terms of a negative, that the more you get used to being in those scenarios, the less likely you are to choke, right?
Yep.
Because it becomes normal. And so what happened to me this year, I have never shot under par in my life, over 18 holes on a real golf course. So I'm playing Kanawaki, and I am now one under. I am 1 under par after 17, going to 18, hit my ball into the greenside bunker, low left side. And so I tell myself, up and down, just up and down, right? And I've done it a million times. So it makes me familiar. It gives me a quiet level of confidence. I get up, I put the ball to about 5 feet. It's a slider downhill, left to right. And this is where I'm back into being, oh my God, I'm the guy on 17 looking to break 80 for the first time. Knees are wobbling, palms are sweaty. And I'm telling myself, as I'm standing over the putt. I got a 5-foot slider on 18. Yep. Pin is red, bottom right. And I'm saying, Shaun, it's just a putt. It's just a putt for par, and you got 69, and you did it. I missed it low side, amateur side. But again, it was that relatability, it was that pressure I put on myself because I haven't been there enough in my life. Right where it got to me a little bit. So I go back to when I said this is the weak part of my game. I mean it. And so if I can become more comfortable in situations, Dave, where, I expect to make 2 birdies a round, you get comfortable. And with that comfort, Dave, comes confidence. I firmly believe that.
Yeah, and there's 2 things I would say. I mean, obviously we got into Tiger's mindset. What we heard in his interview when he's teaching Charlie, because they asked him about his kid and under pressure, under the cameras. And he said, I've always told Charlie, as we know what he said, he just basically said, doesn't matter whether you're playing by yourself, with me, at home, in front of, in a tournament, or in front of millions of people, the shot's the shot. And it's interesting what you said about positive. I've done this a million times. It's just a putt. And if I can make 2 birdies around, I remember there's a girl I coach who's a very good player. One of her you could say friends, but also competitors. She wasn't scoring necessarily in tournaments, and her dad took her aside and says, I want you from now on, your goal is to make 4 birdies every round. I don't care what else you do. All of a sudden she started to score. So it's gearing yourself, your mind in the right direction. We're out there for 4 hours plus sometimes, and it's so easy for your mind to stray.
Yes.
So you really have to learn to give yourself the proper messages all the time. It's about self-talk, right? And even I like what Patrick Cantley said recently in an interview. He says Tiger's able to get into that zone and that bubble. Then he's able to come out of it and go back in and go back out and come in and out. And that's what you need to do, because golf's there for 4 hours. You're out there for 4 hours, and you're walking most of the time. And during those walks in between shots, you have time to to stray and have the wrong self-talk. And you have to really teach yourself to chill, enjoy the moment. And Patrick Cantley says, I'm teaching myself to do that. He goes, I'm in it for 4 hours. I have to learn to come in and out of it. And I see a lot of players like that. They're way too intense out there.
So the secret is find a Navy SEAL psychiatrist to train your 8-year-old son's brain.
There you go.
That's the key. That's what Patrick Cantley.
Let me know if you find somebody.
Because I could tell, dude, you know how many times I have, in anger, I have pushed my golf cart 50 yards down the fairway and I'm, Shaun, you suck. You're the worst player. Go play curling. Go play tennis. What are you doing on this golf course? Like you berate yourself. And it's a work in progress. Sometimes what works for me is like, I'll break my roundup in holes of 3. Like, okay, holes 1, 2, 3, no bogeys. Holes 7, 8, 9. I want you maximum 1 over. That's it. You know what I mean? And I find for me that helps. And I've heard college coaches talk about the importance, Dave, of their athletes having snacks in the bag. So like, if you're on the back 9 in a match play event and, you're all square or maybe you're 1 down or 1 up, breaking the tension and the distraction by, eating a banana in between shots, walking down the fairway or sipping on a water or talking to your coach for a second, just something to snap you out of that pressure packed situation. It works for some people.
Yeah. Well, there's a few things. I mean, number one, for sure, like don't stop pushing your cart in anger. Like if you want to push it 50 yards, as long as it's not going to fall over, that's a good way to release your anger. Just don't self-berate, obviously, afterwards. The idea is like, it's okay to get anger is a normal emotion. Push the cart, get it out of your system. No negative self-talk. After that, you're talking about the food. A lot of people don't realize that a U.S. Open, when Aaron Baddeley had the lead many, many years ago, and he shot like 80 or 81 the final round, he forgot to eat that day. He forgot to eat and drink that day. He was so wound up. So that has a big, big part of it. But the other thing with kids and any parents listening, if they're coaching their kids are playing tournament golf, they actually forget to eat. And you have to know what to eat. Like I can't eat a banana out there. It's too much sugar. So I'll eat more like peanut butter or an almond butter sandwich, something just keep myself going, my energy levels, and you'd be surprised what eating.
I'm a big fan of nuts. I like nuts.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah. So it's an important point.
It is. Okay. We're 32 minutes into this bad boy. David is moving lickety split for me. I love talking golf with you. We're going to get together and work on the game a little bit or what?
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you're right. We're still doing a bit of coaching. As far as I know, the rules and regulations, you're allowed to coach. I think, I don't know, maybe one-on-one. You're certainly it's individual sports. I mean, I know we're over at the Golf Dome and we're the same as tennis. So we're allowed to be open. We wear a mask. It's the air quality in there is very good. And I think like with the individual sports, we keep it simple, so we don't.
So if parents are listening, they like what they hear. You're a respected authority in the world of teaching golf. How have people getting in touch with you? Want to book some lessons for this winter and get ready for May?
MontrealGolfAcademy.com is the easiest way. Send me an email. I don't even mind giving out myself. It doesn't even bother me. You can just shoot me a text if that's all right. 514-702-1760. And I teach a fair amount, and I think things are really picking up. It's interesting. I've never seen a year and a half like we have. I'm sure you know that, Shaun. Things have died down, obviously, because of COVID, but it's been busy even into the fall. It's people are realizing that golf is a marathon. It's not a sprint. You want to prepare for your marathon. You can't do it with a month to go before the season.
Yeah. Listen, welcome to the game of golf. It's the greatest game in the world. Just stay out of my way. Play fast. That's it. Welcome to the come in droves. Just play fast.
Shaun, you're talking about videos before. You and I should get out on the course one day. Maybe do a couple of like tutoring videos on how to play quickly. I agree. And I'll give you a lesson right now. One of the best lessons to speed up play. I love to walk. I always walk. 99.9% I am a walker. I just find I play better. I don't like, hitting a shot, jumping in a car, driving to my, and I'm like, it's too fast for me. But I digress. The best bit of advice to speed up play was it comes in two ways. If you're playing in a foursome, all of you don't walk to the same ball. If you hit your ball wherever it goes, I'll meet you on the green. That's number one.
Number two is if you wear a glove when you're playing, after you hit your shot, most of us take our glove off, bury it in our pocket like we see the guys on TV do. As you're walking to your next shot, put your glove on as you're walking. As opposed, most people, they walk, they shoot the shit, they go to their ball, and then they put the glove on, take out the scope. Oh, what club do I need? What's the wind? Throw some grass in the air. What's the wind do? No. As you're walking, plot your next shot in your head. That's what I do all the time. What's the wind doing as I'm walking, right? Because sometimes you don't feel it. As you walk ahead a little bit. As you're doing that, then you put your glove on. So you're already a couple of steps ahead. Then you can get your scope out, get your yardage, get your feel, execute, make a birdie. You're welcome. With Dave Hill, I'm Shaun Starr. It's our first ever In the Car with Starr interview, though neither Dave nor I are in our respective cars. The plan is to do these interviews. I want to do one a week. And I was talking to my better half because all I want to do is talk golf, right? She's like, listen, it's not a golf podcast. And I'm like, if you get Dave on, then you get, I'm going to get Sean Perno on from TaylorMade. We're going to talk about the new Stealth driver. And I'm like, well, I know a few other guys that want to talk golf. So I want to do golf. I want to do it with Dave. He's my favorite. And at Montreal Golf Academy, Dave?
Yep. .com.
For the email. Get your lessons now. Do you mind talking price, like bundles? Like if somebody wants to get a package of 5 lessons or 10 lessons, that's something you offer?
Typically, I don't like to talk price, but I mean, it just because I do, but I kind of go just by the hour or 45 minutes now, straight up, because people still have to pay for their time when they go to practice facilities, which I don't own, right? So just think around an hour, it's going to run you anywhere around $100. 45 minutes, around $60-$70. It's usually. Well,
it's what I tell people all the time. If you are going to get into golf and you're like, oh man, the new TaylorMade Stealth driver, whoa, that's sick! It's a beautiful driver, first of all. But let's say you have the money, you have the means to go buy that driver, $600 plus tax, and let's call it, you're a bad player. You're a bad player. You could be better, but you want to go buy a game. Don't go buy a game. You can go buy a game with Dave.
We can all be better.
We go. Oh, well, listen. As I tell people all the time, Tiger Woods has a swing coach. Colin Morikawa has a coach. These are the best players in the world. They have coaches. It's okay as a 20 duffer to have a coach too. But what I'm getting at is, if you have $800 that you want to put into equipment because you think the equipment's going to buy you a game, what I'm saying is just take that investment and invest it in a teacher that can teach you fundamentals, and then go spread your money around and go buy the nice stuff and the nice clothes and the baller driver and everything else. But trust me when I tell you, from someone that has been down this path before, it's so much more enjoyable to have the dopest equipment when you know what you're doing with it.
Yep. And if you don't want to do privates, get some friends together, do it in a group. It's more, it's cost effective that way. And that way during, you don't have a pro hovering over you necessarily every moment of the lesson. So you can take a piece of information, work on it while he's working with somebody else. And group lessons can be a very cost-effective way to go. And it's a good way to initiate yourself into instruction. Even if you're not a beginner or a novice, you could be more of an intermediate player, but get a bunch of guys together and work on stuff. And Steph, especially like this year, I'm going to do a lot more coaching with adults. We coach kids. We don't coach adults, especially during the season. Coaching is different than teaching. It's teaching them how to practice, how to take their game from the practice arena to the golf course, how to score. There's more to it than just whacking a ball on a range, as we know.
No doubt about that. Okay, so let's go into this rapid fire style with Dave Hill. I'm Shaun Starr, in the car with Starr. We're talking PGA Tour, the 2022 season. Always like, subscribe, follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. It's all there. Certainly appreciate it. Let's talk about the PGA Tour season that starts at Kapalua in Hawaii. Yep. Interesting that Dustin Johnson, who didn't win in 2021, I have a hard time believing this guy with that level of talent went an entire season and didn't win. So he's not there. What do you think's going on with DJ in this game?
I think, Sean, I think it's a sophomore slump. I think he won the Masters in the November of 20. And you know how it is. Guys build themselves up to win this one big tournament they've always wanted to win, or one big thing that happened to them. I think he's been a little bit party central in his mind ever since. As we know, Gretzky got him on track to really get more organized, work ethic, practice effectively, and he developed his game. So up to a point, for the last 5 years, where he really kind of took it to a whole other level. And then once he got to the Masters, he got, Mount Everest, the pinnacle for him. And it's like, okay, I did it. Because he grew up just down the road, right, from Augusta in South Carolina, not too far away. It was the tournament for him that he wanted to win. And I just think ever since, that's what it is. I just think he's like, okay, I did it. And now he's going to have to, it's up to him now to go back to what he used to do that got him there in the first place.
We've got 40 players at this event in Hawaii. Yeah. Rory Mcilroy is not there. He's going to start a season in Abu Dhabi. He never plays this tournament in Hawaii. Phil too never really goes to Maui and plays in this event. We had 40 different winners on tour last year. Good or bad for the game that we have this much variety?
I think we have to ask ourselves why. Wraparound season. Definitely more players coming out of college ready to win. I also think there's a lot of appearance money. We look at like Abu Dhabi and the Saudi tournament and Dubai. A lot of the big names, they get lured over there with appearance money, right? So they're getting paid millions to show up. So that kind of weakens the field in some of the regular PGA Tour events, especially on the West Coast swing and different times of the year. So there's more players that have an opportunity to win. Is it good for the game? I think it is. I think it gives some guys who a chance to win. I think it's guys too, they're trying to resurrect their careers, maybe in their late 30s, early 40s, and they see, like, if I work hard, I can do really well, win some events, prepare for even the Champions Tour. So I think it's good for the game. I think it exposes more fans to more players and say, hey, there's a lot of good players out there. Listen, there's going to be great players no matter what. I mean, you're always going to have your top tens in there regardless. So I think it is good for the game. And I think Shaun, if you look at every other sport, what do you got? 700 players in the NHL, about 450 in the NBA, you got 1,600 in the NFL, and all their minimum salaries are like $400,000 to $900,000. So I think it opens up some opportunities for guys to make a living out there. And I think we need that. There's only 150 regular guys on tour. I think on all 200 or 250.
Yeah.
So,
and by to that end, it's guaranteed money in Maui this week too, right? There's no cut. Everybody makes it the whole way. Right. As we talked about, Rory McIlroy's not there. A few weeks he'll be in Abu Dhabi. It was an interesting season, I thought, for Rory last year. Obviously, like the infamous photo of his torn golf polo there after he blew the lead in a tournament. I've never been the biggest fan of his putting game. He is the best driver of a golf ball my eyes have ever seen. There's part of me, Dave, I would happily sell my soul to be able to hit the ball off the tee. The way that power squat move he has is, I salivate over that move. But what are you thinking about where his game is at? And, I love how outspoken he is. I think that comes with quiet confidence, knowing that he knows he's Rory McIlroy and he doesn't have a lot to prove. Do you think this guy is going to be able to once again just be at the top of the list when it's all said and done in 2022?
He has scar tissue. This year's Ryder Cup too, he was very passionate about what happened and how badly they lost. He was quite upset about that. He took that into the race to Dubai at the final, and he kind of did have that tournament. He gave it away a little bit for sure. Morikawa, nothing to take anything away from Morikawa. He was unbelievable that last round. And that incredible Hulk moment of ripping his shirt. Well, that shows that the fire's there. Is it going to translate into events this year? I'm not so sure. I think he has too much scar tissue. That was another one. Just when he won the CJ Cup and this fall, and then he looks like he's going to bounce back and win the tournament in Dubai, and all of a sudden this happens, and it's just another kind of in a way, a tragic loss for him personally. That's a big tournament to win the final event and the race to Dubai, and you're right about his putting. He's hot or he's not, and it's just not consistent. He doesn't visualize putts very well, it seems, as much as he's working with Brad Faxon. So I'm not so sure he's going to have a great season.
Well, he's working with Brad Faxon. If Faxon can't get his putting game around, then it's hopeless.
2 years at least, I think.
And it's interesting too, right? Like Justin Thomas, who's going to be at the event in Maui starting tomorrow. Not only was he a beast, he was the only player to be inside the top 9 in strokes gained, that was also -3 and minus negative in strokes gained on the green. I mean, this guy putters game, if that could just become average, watch out for JT. I'll talk about him in a second. You want to talk about Bryson?
Well, Bryson, talking about the PGA Tour, I don't think they're going to do anything. I think the PGA Tour is just going to. Bryson's great for the show.
Yeah.
When he shows up, he's not the needle that Tiger is, but he definitely moves the needle. And there's horses for courses. I mean, we can see that he dissects certain courses that make sense to him, like Winged Foot when he won the U.S. Open, Bay Hill with the thick rough. So when he can cut corners, as he did also at Whistling Straits, right? He can cut corners and change a golf course. That he plays a golf course and nobody else can play that way. Then it becomes an advantage. And when he's in thick rough at 180, there's nothing for him to sling those 1-length 9-irons out of there. So I just think there's courses like if you look at, say, Players Championship TPC, Sawgrass, Scottsdale, different courses like that, Colonial, not that he goes to all of these. Anybody can win on these courses. So there's courses that he will do well on and others he won't. And I don't think the PGA Tour is going to make any great changes in terms of rules or regulations to equipment or to scale him back. I think he's good for the game, but I don't think that's what the game's entirely about. As we see with Morikawa again, like he doesn't play that game, and he's number 2 in the world, and it's happened quickly.
Yeah, and I think if John Rahm kind of craps the bed a little bit this week and Morikawa lights it on fire, he'll be the world number 1, I believe. But that's the question, right? Like, I hope, as a fan of the game, I hope the PGA Tour leaves him alone, because Bryson pushes the limits all the time when it comes to tech and, trying to get that ball speed up to 200 and trying to hit the ball as far as humanly possible every single time he has a driver in his hand. And that's it. Like, I'm with you. Since Tiger Woods, Morikawa, Phil Mickelson, nobody has moved the needle like Bryson since Tiger Woods for me. So you got to know where your bread's buttered, and you got fence sitters, people that don't watch golf, but 4 times a year when major championship is on, if Bryson's in the lead, people are going to watch. And that's important for the growth of the game, right?
Yeah, love him or hate him.
No doubt. Okay, you ready for PGA Tour Predictions 2022 edition?
Yeah, I might have to look at a couple of my notes.
I got my notes here.
Okay. All right.
Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Prediction number 1. The stats tell me this guy should have won more often than he did last year. He's going to win at least 3 times this year. Remember, there were 40 different winners on tour last year. This guy's going to win 3 times. He's your world number 1. Nobody's better. He is a machine. John Rahm wins 3 times in 2022. How's that for my first prediction of the season?
I definitely think he will. I don't think he's going to win a major this year. I think he has a child. I think he's going to, not that that's going to hurt him. I just think that his priorities will be a little bit different. He had a great season last year. He should have won more, as you said. Obviously got pulled off the course at Muirfield. What do you have, like a 7-stroke lead or something?
That was the best. You have COVID, John.
Second time he caught it too. Anyway, so and then he gets yanked out of the Olympics. So basically, I think you're right. He'll win 3. I think he'll hold on to number 1, but barely. And I don't think he's going to win a major.
What's your first prediction? Give it to me.
My first prediction is that Hovland will rise to number 2 behind Rahm. I think he's going to have a breakout year. I think he's going to win 4 times, and I think he's going to win a major. And I'll tell you which major I think he's going to win. If you want me to wait, we can wait for that.
Yeah, wait. He plays. I think he's the busiest golfer on tour.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody has played more rounds than Hovland. He was a great college player. Him and Matt Wolff at college were phenomenal to watch. Yeah. I mean, I watched this guy's pretty much his entire collegiate career when he was on television. Yeah, and you could tell, even Matt Wolff, you could tell that this guy is going to be a tour player and a very good one.
Yeah, I think he has the longevity to do it because to me, he's a little bit like a modern day Trevino in a way. He's shorter, he's stocky, he's stronger, he's much longer. He hits a fade, loves the game, plays all the time. He has a body type that's going to last. He's strong as a bull.
Right.
He's quirky, very quirky personality. I think he's going to be a world beater.
Okay, I've got two more for you. Okay.
Yep.
My next one is Tiger Woods is going to skip the Masters in April. There's no way. Like, I watched him in the car. We all watched him, right, in the Bahamas with Charlie, and it was such great TV. It was the first time, like, I can't do anything. I have to go watch a 12-year-old play golf for 3 days. Like, completely put my life on pause. But I'm watching Tiger, especially on Sunday, where he hit a couple of bombs, and you could see he winced a couple of times. I've been to Augusta. I've walked the course a couple of times. My second prediction, he skips the Masters. There's no way he's walking Augusta National for 4 days if he makes the cut. No way it's happening.
It's not going to happen. He won't play the Masters. I agree with you on that. I also predict Tiger will play, I think, 2 majors this year. And but outside of Tiger, as a further prediction for the tour, I actually think Rory falls out of the top 10.
Oh, why?
I just don't think he's going to have a good year. I think
it's just
Rory,
a gut feel, or what do you see something?
It's a gut feel, and how he finished the season last year, as well as he hits the ball. I think there's too many good young players coming up, and I think there's too many top 10 stalwarts ahead of him that are going to hold on to their positions and make a charge. And you got young guys like Sam Burns, who's right there. He's going to make a move up. So I don't think he's going to stay in the top 10.
So my last one, I like that. That's a bold one. I like that. I like that you put your nuts on the table and say, here they are. I love it.
Absolutely.
So you gave me Victor Hovland. What are you looking down at your testes, or what are you doing? Vic, you said Victor Hovland was going to finish number 2 to Jon Rahm.
Yeah.
My next prediction is Justin Thomas will finish the year as the world number 2. As I told you earlier, he's the only player to be top 9 in strokes gained, but a negative in strokes gained with the putter. All he has to do is just be marginally better, and I think he's off to the races.
Yep. I agree with you on the putting, and I also predicted something about JT.
Yeah.
And my prediction is he will not win a major this year. I know everybody thinks he's going to win, and I would love to see him win a major, but if he doesn't win a major, now I think the pressure, he's going to really start feeling the pressure that he's going to need a breakout season, which I think he's going to have. I have a gut feeling next year is going to be 23 will be a breakout season. I just don't think he's going to win a major this year because he wants it too badly. And I think this year will put things into perspective and how to really go about his business. He's too intense at times, and he still hasn't learned to temper that properly.
You ready for your major picks for 2022?
Definitely ready for my major picks.
Okay. Let's start with the Masters. It's the first major of the PGA Tour season.
Yep.
I'll let you go first.
Well, surprisingly, and I know he hasn't been very solid at times in final rounds, but he's held his own. I'm picking Xander Schauffele.
Hey.
And the reason I'm picking him, he won the Olympics, which is maybe not as big a deal as some people think, but I think for him it was. He actually won the PGA Tour Championship for just those 4 rounds. Like, he didn't win the actual tournament, but for the 4 days, he had the lowest score at East Lake. East Lake is kind of similar with the greens in terms of their speed. And if you look at the Masters, the last couple of Masters, he was strong. He finished second and tied third. And on the final day, he had like 4 birdies coming in on the back 9. So I think with his high ball flight, I think he's a very good putter, actually. I think this game is suited so well for Augusta, and I think this year he's going to break through and win it.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right that he wins a major, not necessarily the Masters, because I want to cheer for my own guy. I think it's Jon Rahm. I think Johnny Boy's going to win it. I just think he's the best player, and it's not really a competition. He's flawless. Everything about his game. Yeah. He's cool under pressure. He's won a major. Like you pointed out earlier, he checked off another thing on the to-do list. He has a child, married, like life is settled down for him. He knows how to close. He is the world number 1. He stays as the world number 1. I just think the moment for Johnny Boy, Seve style, is this year. So the world number one.
For sure, for Spanish golf, he kind of epitomizes all three major or Masters champions, right? With Ballesteros, Olazabal, and Garcia. Like he's got the bravado of obviously Ballesteros. He's an amazing putter, like Olazabal, and he's just a great shot maker and emotional, like Garcia. So he's got it all. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
It's a good pick.
One of my favorite names in sports, Jose Maria Olazabal. One of my favorite names. PGA Tour Championship. I will go first. I think he's ready. As I mentioned, he is dialed in, focused. I know he hated the Sim driver line. I don't think he touched the Sim 2. Colin Morikawa is another guy that buried the Sim 2. Everyone thought he was playing with it. No, you're going to watch. The stealth is out. They're loving the stealth. The numbers are huge. Ball speed, yardage gained. It's a 60 layered carbon face that's bright red, by the way. I'll have a review on that soon. But Dustin Johnson back to prominence. He's my winner for the PGA Championship, Mr. Hill.
Well, Southern Hills is an interesting course in Tulsa. It's interesting because when you look at the last champions, I think you had Tiger. Runner-up was Woody Austin, and I think in '94 it was Nick Price, and runner-up I think was Corey Pavin. So it kind of plays into different styles of golfers in spite of its length. And my pick, and it's because he went to Oklahoma State, he's going to feed off the crowd, is
your boy.
Yeah, I think Hovland.
Stay consistent. I appreciate your consistency.
Well, he hits it long. He's got he's really improved his short game, so which is gonna help him obviously in majors. And I really think being in Oklahoma, he's gonna have a bit of a home crowd advantage, and I think he's gonna feed off of it.
And let's go to Father's Day. Sunday, Father's Day is always the final round of the U.S. Open. I always wished, and I hate that they changed the rule. I always wish that if they're tied after 18, I want another 18 on Monday. They don't do that anymore, U.S. Open style. Remember, Tiger Woods, Rocco Mediate, we'll never have that ever again. What a shame. Nevertheless, though, every time the U.S. Open is played, he was, even with a bad knee, he's still in it. Brooks Koepka, man, this guy was born to compete and win U.S. Opens. Dave, what are your thoughts on Brooks Koepka as my U.S. Open winner for 2022?
Well, it's interesting you bring him up because I'm looking at it. It's Boston, and I was thinking I almost need two picks here based on the golf course and the way it sets up with the dog legs. I was talking before about Bryson. I think it's like triple B, right? You got Bryson, you got Brooks, and you got Boston. I would have loved to see a Monday playoff between Brooksy and Brooks, right? That would be awesome. But I'm going to go with you on Brooks. And the reason being, there's a story that goes way back, 1999 during a practice round during the Ryder Cup. And Tom Lehman's playing with Tiger. And, it's the rough crowd, right, Boston? So there's a particular par 4 that you can try to drive and hit the green, and which is not always easy back in the day in '99, but some of the long hitters could do it. And Tom Lehman's telling the story. So I laid up with whatever, a 4-iron, and Tiger pulls out his 4-iron. And the crowd's going, Tiger, go for the green, Tiger. It's a practice round, right? So they're going on, and he hits like 1 or 2 balls, but he never went for the green. So he's walking off the tee, and he hears, Tiger, you're an effing asshole, like that, right? So, of course, Tom Lehman's walking up the fairway alongside Tiger, and he goes, does that happen a lot? And Tiger didn't even look at him and just said, you have no idea. So it takes a tough, I think Bryson is a little too snowflakey to win in Boston, to tell you the truth. And I think Brooks, if he's healthy, he's tough as nails. He'll be able to handle that crowd, and they'll love him. I think
that's a great breakdown. It reminds me of the time when the Canadians folded to the Boston Bruins when Max Pacioretty was still on the team. To your point, Max Pacioretty got verbally abused and berated and was never in the series at all. I played a round of golf with Pacioretty, and I'm with Knuckles, and I'm standing on the 18th green at Kanawaki with Knuckles, Gallagher, Pacioretty. And Pacioretty looks at Knucks, and Pacioretty had been asking Knuckles questions about how to do this and how to do that all day. And I'm like, oh my God, look at this guy, man. He's a pab, and he's like, like a snowflake, man, like so
Yeah,
triggered,
snowflake.
and a lost puppy, you know, I'm like,
Yeah.
and he's like, Nux, they were so mean, and they were calling me pretty boy and college boy Nux, and I didn't know what to do, and the mama's boy, and I'm like, oh my, sack up, bro, you're an
Exactly.
NHLer, you know, but
Yeah.
like not everybody has thick skin, you know, and
No,
it helps that Tiger's father probably said worse things to him when they were when he was in between
100%.
banging broads in the Winnebago on the practice green, you know.
Well, I
All
know.
right.
Listen, I know Bryson won at Winged Foot, but it's the New York and New Jersey crowd, they're not the same as the Boston crowd. It's a whole different
No
crowd.
way. No way. Okay, my last pick, the British Open, the Open Championship. I never say British Open. I don't know why I said that. The Open Championship.
Open
The
Championship.
150th edition of the Open Championship. It has to be at St. Andrews. Of course, it's going to be on the old course. Tiger Woods, I think, is going to play that, by the way. And my winner, Jordan Spieth. It's history.
Well,
it's his course. It's his course, Dave.
Well, it's his course. He hasn't won it there. He almost did in that
Almost.
in the big year in 2015. I'll say this about Jordan Spieth. You know, there's the creativity, his short game. The old course I've played it allows you to spray the driver a little bit. Obviously, if you're going to avoid the bunkers, which is key, and it depends how he hits it off the tee, but he'll manage his game pretty well there. So I think it's a very good pick. His short game is going to really help him, his creativity. You're indeed right. Tiger is going to play, and Tiger's going to win it.
Oh!
100%. Tiger will be ready. He's already spoken about it. It's the 150th anniversary. He's won twice there. As you
I might
saw,
cry, Dave. If he wins, I might cry.
Yeah, it's like the whole world is going to go out. And Tiger's a long way from done, right? He knows he has to become the true GOAT. So
and
one
he's got to
more
beat
victory.
Phil for the oldest. He has to beat Phil to be the oldest to win a major.
There's that too. He's got to beat Sam Snead's record of 82. Yeah. I think too, Tiger looks at his 3 U.S. amateur victories as majors because, if you win a professional major, they count the U.S. Am the way Bobby Jones, that was one of his majors. So Jack's got 2 U.S. Ams and his 18 professionals, which is 20. And of course, Tiger has 15 professional majors and 3 U.S. Ams. So of course, he's at 18. He wins one more major. I think this is the one he has the best chance of winning this year and even in the near future. And the old course, I mean, he just loves it. Favorite course. He knows how to play that golf course. He'll be ready. And if he wins, in his mind, he's one away from Jack, and he's already surpassed Sam. So look out. I think Tiger's going to win it. Based on the draw, of course. You don't know what you're going to get Thursday, Friday with weather. There is that.
That's it. I hope you enjoyed this. We're 62 minutes deep into a thorough 2022 PGA Tour breakdown, predictions, major winners. Dave told me before we started recording that if I won the Masters, if I won the majors predictions, I got more right than he would. He said he would give me lessons for free for the rest of my life. So that's what's on the line today. I look forward to being right and pointing at Dave and saying, "I told you so, brother."
Shaun,
thanks, buddy.
We're still negotiating what my prize will be. We'll get back to that.
Correct.
Sounds good.
Thanks as always, my friend. It's been an honor and a privilege, and I look forward to seeing you in person and swinging and knocking some balls around. Okay.
It was awesome, Shaun. And let's do it real soon. Golf is a year-round thing, man. We all know that.
Amen, brother. Thanks as always. In the Car with Star, presented by my great and loyal sponsors, Ash Gregoire, Chamonix-Nissan, Poutineville, Vaudreuil, Dorion, and K-Stop Gaspar and Depanneur, Highway 138 in Ganawage. Stop paying premium prices for premium fuel when you can get the same fuel for much cheaper at K-Stop Gaspar, Highway 138 in Ganawage. In the Car with Star, the interviews, and my guest today, Dave Hill.
Happy New Year, guys. Cheers.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks.